I don't want to be attacked everywhere I go. Somebody finds you're Jewish, they think I'm screaming. I'm sorry because it's getting me so upset. There's two things. One, I'm tired. I'm really this is making me angry. I am telling you, I have been attacked. I don't say physically, attacked verbally. And then people saying it's complicated. I'm like, what the hell? I've been out at night and somebody said, well, it's complicated. I'm like, well, if you said that about any other ethnic group, it wouldn't be complicated. It's tired of being attacked. People saying things like they find it acceptable. That makes me angry and uncomfortable. And this is happening on a regular basis. I don't know if it's happening to you all, but it's happening to me. That's the first thing. I've avoided going out a lot more lately because I don't know, for whatever reason, people know, they whisper, maybe, I don't know why they know I'm Jewish, but apparently people do. The thing that's bothering me the most, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent, but I want to finish what I was saying, Seth, because I think it leads into what you're saying, is that what's bothering me more than anything of all of this is that there are people who are friends and don't understand it and can think it's self-consumed or that it can't be that bad or how bad is it really? And I can't, and so then I try to push it in their face more because it makes me upset.
The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was. All things are mortal but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality?
Welcome to the Jew Function. We're here again. I know everybody missed us. Some missed us. Some wish we, stop existing. But that's the fate of being a Jew. It's been crazy down here in Israel. It's not there's the ceasefire thing going on, but just the general mood. It feels like there's a crazy time thing happening, time dilation, time contraction. It feels like for a moment, everything, like a ton of stuff is happening in like an hour, and then the next moment, like you can stretch it like rubber and do all this kind of things in it, and then it puffs back again. That's what I feel. I don't know how it is for you guys.
The same thing. Normally there's something called like the first 100 days of the presidency when you get a new president in the US. This was like, these guys came out swinging so fast and so hard with so much. I think maybe the strategy was just if they do enough things, then the media, that's another thing. The media would have a story. It used to last for a couple weeks or a week or even a day. Now, as soon as they publish a headline, like 3 hours later, there's another headline. So, and also with AI, I think AI now is speeding up at like every 6 months, doubling or something. So we are actually like very pre-robot, which has a lot to do with the role of the Jews as well. Like what is the purpose of humanity if the robots are going to be doing, I mean, people may be disregarding this, but you just bookmark this and, within the next couple of years, we're going to have robots everywhere.
And I think the question on everybody's minds is, can the robot do the mitzvahs for me so I don't have to?
No, I don't think it's on most people's mind. The robots are going to do most of the work, though. Definitely most of the repetitive and laborious work. And so what's going to be left for humans? So yeah, things are really speeding up. We're at a time now that's like right before cell phones. We're at that moment all over again with AI and the robots and everything. This is right before like cell phones, except this time it's going to be even more dramatic than the advent of the mobile phones.
Yeah, earlier today, literally a few hours ago, I was I was a guest on another podcast. Unfortunately, it's in Hebrew, so not everybody can listen to it. But we talked about everything.
You get an AI that'll translate it in real time.
No, which we will. That's what we'll do probably. But at some point, the guy was describing as like, as humanity is like, it's like we're the seed and we're in the ground and we're below the surface. It's all dark all around us. The pressure of the soil, it's all pressuring us, and this thing has to, come out of it, sprout out of it, and then make its way out. And we're at this point in time where we're just rotting away and waiting for that thing to sprout. But even after it sprouts, it still need to find its way to the surface. And then when it breaks out of the surface, then humanity is going to be showered with light like it's never seen before. That was his analogy, but it has to exert all these internal forces to counter all the extreme pressure on the outside. And I feel like it was an apt description of the state of affairs. The feeling that I get is also that like none of the stuff that we thought would work a certain way is working the way it's supposed to be working. I guess I don't know if
Like
it makes
what?
sense. Borders, wars, politics, economy.
It's interesting. In the U.S., there's a feeling, and I'm wondering what'll be next. I have a feeling what'll be next, but there's a feeling that, law and order is coming back into place. The borders are being closed. The stupid regulations are going away. A lot of the waste is being rooted out. There is that feeling among the majority of people here.
Okay,
which is also really interesting because we know as Jews that there's never like, we got to Mexico, now we'll be fine. Or like, we made it to America, now we'll be fine.
It's just a rest stop along the way. Don't get too comfortable.
But it does. So we need to talk about that and explain that situation. But it does feel that it is a rest stop. There is a minute that things are getting cleaned up and Israel is being supported and which it sounds very different than what you're describing there.
No, look again. You're experiencing it there. I hope we'll experience some. We'll get some break here in Israel, although Israel gets fewer breaks. But again, it's just a small point. In the big scheme of things, I don't think things are going to go back to normal, even for Trump's America, even for Jews under Trump in America. And just to say, to prove that so much has changed, we actually re-invited a guest, which we don't do as often as we should, I think. But we re-invited a guest that's always on our mind, and he's one of the few guests that we kept regular contact with. And he's always a hoot, and I think is going to help us shine a light a little bit on what's going on right now and how are we looking to move beyond these points of uncertainty. There's this rotten stage that we're in where all the pressures is closing in. How can we maybe sprout as humanity, and what's our role in it, like the Jews? Because if you've been following the podcast, that's what we do here, and we believe there is a role, there is a plan, there's a beginning, there's an end. We're somewhere in the middle, actually 2/3 maybe of the way, but we are required to participate.
4/5.
Yeah, 4/5. Okay, and we're required to participate. Like nobody asked us if we want to be part of this game, but we can decide how to play this game. So this is where we are. This is the point in time. Let's zoom in. Let's call in Fred Menachem, and let's have some good times. Fred.
What's up, guys?
Yeah. Hey.
Hello, Fred. Looking good.
Yeah, you think so?
Sharp. I think, we're marriage material.
This is Fred Menachem 2.0.
You guys gonna make a shit off or what?
We're trying. I don't know. We haven't.
Neither of us leave our rooms, so.
Right, exactly. Listen, trust me, I feel the same way.
I'm in a bomb shelter. There's not much female traffic around
and I'm
here.
in an industrial park in central New Jersey, so. But we'll think about you.
Yeah,
it's been a while. Thanks for inviting me on.
It's been almost
sunny there.
Almost exactly a year. I looked up the episode.
Yeah.
Can you believe that it's been a year?
I mean, a lot's happened this year. It feels like 10. Both personally, both obviously, a lot's happened since October 7th. It's been I think it's been a learning lesson for all of us.
What have you learned?
Well, a couple things. One, that anti-Semitism is truly rampant. That being said, I think that's the primary issue that we're seeing since October 7th. But I think it's not just anti-Semitism. I think part of it is that there's a few things, actually. That's one. Number two, I think also part of it is that people refuse, and this is not just about October 7th, this is about every issue, to chip at their narrative. This is a problem with the world. So people can have facts right in front of them, but it makes no difference because they refuse to take any dent in their narrative or change that, so they won't accept it. I think number three, we're really realizing, especially as Jews, if we want to be, micro about our issues, that we live in a post-truth world. So truth is irrelevant. I don't know if I coined that term, by the way. I keep saying it. I feel like I did, but I'm not sure if I did.
Truth is irrelevant.
Right. It's exactly a post-truth world. I'm talking about that one, but we live in a post-truth world.
It doesn't matter. Facts don't matter, Fred. So you can own it.
They don't.
But your 2 and 3 are similar, and it's something, Fred. If we decide that this is, or just posit that this is just how it is,
right?
Like we thought, if you bring the truth or talk about facts, that it'll change someone's mind or something. But if we realize that in humanity, that's not how it is, and we accept that, if we, as the people who are trying to grow, accept that that's how it is, then what is the thing that changes? What is the thing that works? I'm asking you.
It's a good question. I was actually on the phone with my friend Glenna Milberg, who's an anchor here in Miami for ABC, and we were talking about this exact thing, because I said, it's not changeable. She goes, well, there's got to be something. I said, I don't know. She's like, we have to teach people to critically think. And I really don't believe that that's really possible. I mean, could you have a curriculum in the school critically thinking? It'll become political. So I think that if we're going to talk, I know we're supposed to be talking about, Judaism and anti-Semitism.
No. We're here to talk about you, Fred. We're here to talk about you.
Well, thank you. All right.
Single. He comes, he goes, I know we're supposed to talk how Jews unite.
Right. Ready to mingle. Effervescent, a little neurotic. Any ladies out there? So anyhow, back on that tangent. So I think that the world that we live in, unfortunately, this is no different. People are like, oh, it's so different than it's always been. It's not different. The only difference is that social media has changed the dynamic of propaganda and its ability to spread so quickly. There's always been propaganda, and I don't want to get into a whole history of propaganda, but if you think about it, the USSR, right, the old Soviet Union, was excellent at it, and they did it. Their philosophy was, you do it slowly and over time. Certainly with Vietnam and with other issues, civil rights, the Soviet Union always was very good about, breaking people apart in America. It's not new. The problem is that, and listen, we did it too under Reagan and the Cold War, but the problem is today is that there's no truth anymore, because people don't take the time to critically think. They don't even understand how that works. We have generations that are used to 30-second, sound bites.
Right, hold on, I think you just said it. Who cares about the truth? Why don't we just have good propaganda? If that's what works, why don't we just have good propaganda?
There is such thing. And let's talk about that, because what's propaganda? I mean, propaganda doesn't necessarily mean that something's a lie. It's there's always been propaganda in a sense, without getting into the whole definition. I mean, everything's propaganda, but in a sense, maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but there's always a narrative, right? I mean, nothing's perfect. I mean, even with us, there's a narrative with Israel and the Palestinians. I mean, look, I don't, there's a lot of different folks within. That's the other thing. We're not monolithic, right? So even we have a narrative and all of that, but it doesn't mean the narrative is not based on facts, but you're trying to sell something, and that's the reality. With everything, I'm not talking about with anything, right? And so everybody has a narrative. The question is, which narrative is realistic? Which narrative is full of facts? I'm sorry. Sorry to disagree with you so early. No, you can always, you're disagreeing with me already? My God, what are we getting into now?
I think that this actually opens the door to focusing on how people feel, and not so much about how they think. Because listen, I know it's a sticky situation, but listen, when people watch the Titanic, right, the movie, I mean, it says based on true events. Nobody got excited or moved because it was based on true events. They got moved by these two two actors playing it out, and having this thing, and him dying, and she's they were moved by that. The true events didn't matter to anyone. Did they drown like this or like that? Who started it? Who set the ship in motion? Doesn't matter. So I think
I'm not disagreeing with you, by the way. That's my biggest mantra. I'll get to it in a minute. Keep going, but go ahead.
No. So I'm saying maybe it actually it relieves a certain burden from the work that we have to do. In other words, we need to create an environment that will make people feel a certain way. The fact that it's rooted in truth, in some absolute cosmic truth, biblical truth, all the stuff that we've been talking about, great for us. But for now, we just need to get people to feel a certain way. And the question is, how should people feel, and how do we get them there?
So You make a great point, by the way, and I don't disagree with you. I also process out loud sometimes, and I also am full of contradictions, like every human being, because I think it's subjective in a sense. Yes, I will tell you this: my entire life has been based on using emotion to get people to see something that they would not see if you just present facts. That being said, everything emotional has to be based on a level of facts. It doesn't mean that they're processing it that way, but facts have to be in the picture. So I can tell you, I remember as a child, well, freaking, I'm almost 53 years old, my God. As a kid, debating, right? I was in debate. And I remember I won a lot of debates, and I used to laugh because these people would come in and they were so freaking, they had more facts than I did. I mean, they were like freaking insane. I was like, my God, they're like a library book. But I always won those debates by emotion because it's like a good litigator, right? If you're a litigator in court, you know, a good litigator understands that they have a jury to sway, and that exactly what you're talking about, Leo, that facts alone are not going to do that. It doesn't matter how many times they say strike this or this and that. When they go into that, room to vote, at the end of the day, emotion plays a role, and nobody can deny that. So you're 100% right, being emotive. And that's why this narrative now that's happening with October 7th is working, because A, we don't have the resources to compete with the rest of the world. Unfortunately, USAID money is going to help that propaganda, as we've seen. But on a more macro perspective, of course, emotion is important, but you can't look, whether you win this war over, forget Israel in general, there has to be a level of facts. The question is, and I was getting back to the point, and I'll shut up, I swear. My point, going back to what I was saying prior to saying you disagree, when I don't disagree with you, by the way, we'll get to disagreement, is that at the end of the day, people don't understand even what facts are. It's emotive. You can have, look, AI is insane. I have Riverside for my podcast, and I play this thing where I can just type something in and it recreates my voice. You can have somebody who looks like a newscaster. It's really could be AI, and it tells a story, and people just believe it. And let's see, the last thing I'm going to say about this is, if you look at October 7th, and there's a lot of wars and urban warfare, without getting into all of that, I don't think this podcast is about that, but the reality is that when something's televised and people are seeing this kind of deaths on TV, not everybody's an anti-Semite. I mean, look, if I didn't understand the issue more and I started seeing that, I might be like, oh my God. So that's where the emotive comes in. And that's where, that's where it's so easy to get people to manipulate brains, I guess, because facts, back to your point, may not be as relevant, or I may never have been relevant. Really, today, you can't even surmise what facts are. And the post-truth world, it really makes no difference. All you got to do is sow doubt, not even prove something wrong. So where do we go from this? That's really the question. I mean, we see this breakdown. We were talking about it before you joined. These things that you thought are working, may not be the thing that you think they are, even, with AI and fake this and fake that and manufacture this and that. Where does that leave the average confused individual, especially if they're Jewish and they're like trying to, put yourself, we're lucky to have some perspective from like the days before, the during, the after. But think of a kid like, Seth's kids, their age, and they're like in, college or out of college, and they're like, what's going on? Which side am I on? What is, what am I doing? How to relate to the world? What's the right thing to do? And what used to be clear to everyone just a generation ago is just not clear anymore. Not just how do you receive pleasure? How do you acquire it? Where do you have to put your effort? What will come out of it? Who will benefit from it? All that stuff is not clear anymore. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. So I'm asking. I'm putting it out to this esteemed panel.
I mean, I don't want to interrupt because I always take over the entire. I take all the air out of.
That's the point. That's why I invited you.
Okay, well that's fine. Just sometimes you got to shut me up a bit. Just like wave a hand because I could talk for long. I'm going to start. You threw a lot out there, man. So I don't even think I remember it all. But I will start with what you said about like Seth's kids, for example, because I can talk about my nephews and my niece. I have 5 nephews and a niece. Now they're all about your kids' age, Seth. They're all college age, or my 2 youngest though are younger. They're still in high school and junior high. But the rest of them, the other 4 are college and graduated college. And it's interesting to see the trajectory. So I don't need to call anybody out of my family, but number one, I don't completely disregard that generation because they are very educated kids. They are very well aware. And I don't know, first of all, we all grew up in my family, and I spoke about this, very liberal Democrats. I still don't think I've changed that much, though, because the word liberal is moderate today, right? And it's and my nephews, all of them, and this is so crazy. You're talking about a guy, as you guys know, I was very much engaged in the Democratic Party until about 12 years ago. From Clinton, Joe Lieberman to Bill Richards, on and on. Even hung out with Kennedy when I was a kid. But I was also very close with moderate Republicans. But that being said, my nephews have now, the ones of age, registered as Republicans. At least some of them. I'm not sure about all of them. I'm pretty much sure all of them, if not independents. When it was horrific, I never would say this. When Trump first ran, I despised him. Not that I love him now, but I never thought that, to move into that direction. But they're all, look, I could not support the Democrats in this election at all. And that's another story we can get into. My sister is leaving California, and they've lived in Marin for a long time because it's getting so bad for Jews. And she's tired of fighting because she's a fighter. We'll have to have her on the show. And so, but my point is, my nephew, so where does it happen? I don't think, the problem is that, and I hate to say this, the masses aren't educated. So maybe there's some hope in the fact that there are folks like my nephews and maybe Seth's kids that actually read and learn and don't just look at a 30-second video and accept that as truth. But the bottom line is everyone in my family, except for my mother, my stepfather, have sort of gone the other way because, look, there's one more thing I'll say, and this may not have been what you brought up, but I wanted to say this, and then I'm going to shut up for a minute. And I really believe this. So right now, the Republicans and the right are better for Jews. I don't care. Anybody can say that. But I don't believe for a second that that's going to always last. That changes all the time. Right now, these guys are our friends. And look, we have to be friends with who we're friends with, right? At the time. And things will change. And don't get me wrong, the far left is insane. I'm not talking about that. What I'm saying is what I think I'm learning after October 7th, and I always knew this actually, but that as Jews, and we see this with Israel too, there's evangelicals that don't necessarily like Jews per se, but we support them because they support Israel. And it's the same concept now. Look, I don't want to indict any individuals because I'm sure there's plenty of individuals on all sides that support Jews, et cetera, et cetera. But that being said, I can assure you that a lot of these people do it for political purposes. And at the end of the day, one day when something changes, they're not going to be our friends anymore. And I know we weren't going in that direction, but I think it's important to recognize.
Like if Jesus comes back, they don't need us anymore.
Right.
So.
Well, look, I'll get to that in a minute, but I think it's important to recognize, and this is where I was getting on my long tangent, is that I certainly am not saying all non-Jews. I have lots of non-Jewish friends, and I grew up in Miami. I don't mean individuals, but I think at the end of the day, institutionally or as a group, we know our history, and our history is that people will abandon us. And I hate to say that, and I unfortunately don't like to say it, but we're here to talk about unity. And at the end of the day, I think I'm getting back to kind of the point of this podcast is that what I think I've learned more than anything is that, and I want to be careful saying this, I don't want this to come out as, like I said, I grew up in Miami. I have friends. I spent more time at masses and then, and the kids says it and, all of that. But I think at the end of the day, as groups, we don't really have friends as a group. We're not, there's people who will support us individually, of course. And I don't want to minimize that. Not everybody hates us. There's lots of people who like us. Truly, we have friends. But at the end of the day, I'm talking in the context of history. And in the context of history, I think what this has shown Jewish community, especially very far left Jews, is that we don't have friends historically. And nobody would have ever believed that this could have happened. I mean, nobody, I did. But at the end of the day, this is our history and our trajectory. So to the Jewish unity thing, we have to internalize it. And that's not working either. Everybody's dividing us internally as well. So I don't know if that made any sense, but maybe it didn't. You might want to edit that part. But I think you were getting my point.
I definitely got your point, and I was looking.
Thank God.
Yeah, no. Look, you try to really smooth it out, but I think it's no. Listen, it's okay because we have to. Part of what we're trying to do in this podcast as well is just to to look the truth in the eyes, and it's not may not always be, as likable. But I'll read you a quote, for example. Okay, I just found something from a good fellow, a neo-Nazi named George Lincoln Rockwell. He wrote the book White Power. You know the guy?
Of course.
Of course. So he wrote this. Check this out.
I know all the Jew haters, man.
Okay,
I'm going to get to something in a minute. But go ahead.
So listen to look at what he said. He said the group loyalty of these Jews is perhaps the most fantastic in the history of the world. It has propelled them into near mastery of the entire world, not because they are braver, work harder, are more intelligent, or more worthy than the rest of us. Maybe some of the Jews are, but this is my addition. But because they observe the basic laws of nature and maintain group loyalty. While all the rest of us have fallen for their rotten one world, we are all brothers garbage, which disintegrates our society, the Jews maintain their society with a group loyalty such as history has never before seen. And thus they go from one triumph to another. So he observed the power of that. And when it's on display, it's unmatched. You can't beat it. But and again, we feel that unfortunately or fortunately we have to go there, but it makes us queasy. It makes us like, no, we don't want to be isolationist and this and that. But we in this podcast, we don't think this is the case. We think that if we do it and do it right, not for self-gain, but to actually show the world that it's possible, then you start to change everything. What do you think about that?
Well, a couple things. So I think that so complicated. I think that number one, I'll never be an isolationist. As I said, I have friends from all walks of life. I think that we're forced in that corner. And I think that's our gift and our curse in a sense, right? Obviously, he's doing it in a negative connotation, saying that we think we're superior and all of that crap that we hear all the time from white supremacists and et cetera, and even from the left in a different context. But I think that at the end of the day, there's some truth to it. I mean, the truth is that not that we think we're superior, that we're forced in a corner, for all the time. So of course, look, if we're forced in that corner and we aren't united, we've seen what's happened. And I'm not going to go through all the history, but look at the Second Temple, on and on. So if we don't unite, we fall apart. And if they don't force us in that corner, which that's never happened, then we wouldn't have to be in a situation where we are constantly in a situation where, right, we come together like this. I don't necessarily agree that in this modern day, it's a dangerous thing to say because it is complex and nuanced, right? On one hand, we're not monolithic. I mean, that's insane for anybody that's the danger of that kind of statement. There's what they call philo-Semitism or something. There's amazing people who make comments like this, but it's sort of philo-Semitism. There's a negative, they do it in a positive way, but it also can have a negative message that Jews, it's great. You guys stick together. You're good with money. You look out for each other first and primary. All these things can be and so I think that message from the white supremacists you're talking about, it can be a positive message too. It's so complicated because we have to unite.
It's not really that complicated. It's true. We've found that we always joke. There's like two kinds of anti-Semitism. There's like your street level idiot thug, and then there's these sophisticated, very smart anti-Semites. And when you read the smart anti-Semites, lahavdil, it's not like the sages, but they point to the same thing. Maybe it's like the backside of the coin. Maybe that's what we could say. But they're pointing to the same thing, and that's actually how nature works. It's not supernatural. It's supernatural that there's light and dark, and it's you can't have a day without a night. And so they're pointing to the same thing just from the backside. If any people was able to survive as long as the Jews survived, let's even say without the Sinai experience, which would probably make it impossible to survive that long if you didn't have this, additional help from above. But any people who were able to survive through this many divorces, this many business failures, this many wars, this many things, you get very, very smart from having your ass kicked so many times, and also having constantly the weak ones in your population wiped out, the weak ones in your population wiped out, the weak ones, and whoever couldn't survive got killed. So you do that to a people, just every generation, just whoever can't survive, kill him. Whoever can't survive, kill him. Whoever can't survive, kill him. Put him through the ringer of, put him through the ringer of the Greeks. Put him through the ringer of the Romans.
Right.
So what we have now is we have, we started out before we introduced you today, we started talking about how time is speeding up, especially with AI and things like that, and the iterations. The Jewish people is like a fast iteration of humanity. Like humanity is going through this thing of like, first we swing to the right, and then we swing to the left, and then this happens, and then that. The Jews, it's like, been through so many of these churnings so fast. And also the fact that you had like a Shammai and a Hillel or something like Rav, like these kind of things where they would take both sides and scrutinize, together, and then come out.
Make fire.
Whereas otherwise, like one neighbor would hate his other neighbor, and they would go 40 years hating each other until they died. And then the sons would hate and they build a wall between them, and it would take 10 generations until these people would sort something out. The sages in the Talmud were just, in a week, they would go through, a century of disagreements.
Well, they would have nowhere to go. Also, that's part of the beauty of being a Jew. You're forced to deal with it. It's like, deal with it.
And to swing in the direction whoever will befriend us at the moment. That's what I was trying to point out earlier, right? We have you're talking to the left or the right. We just swing whoever's going to accept us.
Well, this is kind of where we plant our asses, but I'm talking about the inner development.
Right. Okay.
There's actually two things. And
Seth always gets so spiritual and deep, but sometimes it's hard for me to follow. I got to get in your zone.
It's really important point though, that we're living in two realities at once. Like you keep saying, like every 5 minutes you're doing a disclaimer. All my friends are non-Jews. I grew up in Miami. Like at the same time, you're talking about this very Jewish thing. At the other time, you're saying, you're like the Michelangelo post, painting. At the same time, you're keeping your feet on the ground, and that's part of this whole Jewish experience, is that we had the Sinai experience. We had this whole miraculous, otherworldly, supernatural thing, and at the same time, where is we going to plant our ass? Where's the safest place to plant our ass while we're doing this processing? You read Rashi and it sounds like he's like sitting on the Riviera, but he's like running from, he's like sitting there writing about everything, like he's got all the time in the world. So there's these two levels. And the point that I want to get to is that as Jews, because we've been through this sped up iterations of humanity, that's we need to unapologetically present. Matisyahu. Now, Fred. Now I'm taking all the air in this conversation. Remember Matisyahu, right? So when he came out, and he was unapologetically Jewish, and really he was very young. So he probably didn't have any experience in anything, but he just looked like he didn't give a fuck. This is what I believe. This is who I am. And this is what I'm doing. And people rallied behind that. As soon as he got to this thing, he was like, well, actually, I'm kind of like a cool guy. I just want to be like everyone else. And it's like his popularity totally went out. And so I think there's something really to be learned there. We need to be able to unapologetically talk about who we are and what's important to us, because it's a unique voice in the world. And besides, the ADL having a big event somewhere, and besides, something going on with the judicial reform or something, we don't have that many of these kind of influences in the world, like we're talking about.
You're saying we don't have these type of influences in the world? Maybe I misunderstood what you meant.
I don't think so.
That's what he said. So exactly
no, but I misunderstand. I wasn't getting the full context.
Where do we see this proud Jewish? I'm not talking about the Syrians in LA. I'm talking about
what are the Persians, man? Right.
I'm talking. Where do we have?
Are the R's?
In Miami, by the way. You have the Syrian Jews also.
You
in
do, and
Miami?
Aventura, I think, very closed. Their own. I forget what
They're
you
like
call them.
strong,
Yeah, but they're
like
very,
I saw,
very
like,
tight. Look, that's a whole other Jewish community, Mizrahi, and it's very complicated. But yeah, they stick to their.
So I'm talking about there's just a voice out there, like kind of that Matisyahu is a really good example. He didn't have he was repeating what he read, which was great, and it was meaningful. But what I really loved about that moment in time was he was so unapologetic about who he was and what he was connected to. It didn't even matter if he had 20 years experience, with his nose in the books. It just mattered that he felt connected to something.
Let me translate Seth using words of another anti-Semite from 100 years ago.
I spilled coffee all over myself.
Yeah, he's Vasily Shulgin. We love him. We read his stuff in a few of our episodes. So he said Jews in the 20th century have become very smart, effective, and vigorous at exploiting other people's ideas. However, this is not an occupation for teachers and prophets, not the role of guides of the blind, not the role of carriers of the lame. So, in a way, he's looking. So you can say, yeah, this is a barb, this is a anti-Semitic trope, whatever. But no, he's trying to say something here. It's almost like, and in other places he becomes even more explicit. Like he would please give us Jewish rule and guidance and all that. Like there's a desire to be able to rise to this next level. It's not articulated yet. People are not yet able to say.
Read it again. Read it again, Leo.
Jews in the 20th century have become very smart. This is written in 1917. Okay. Jews in the 20th century have become very smart, effective, and vigorous at exploiting other people's ideas. However, this is not an occupation for teachers and prophets, not the role of guides of the blind.
I think what he's saying is be teachers and prophets. You're supposed to be teachers and prophets.
Be guides of the blind, be carriers of the lame. And not as a sort of a side gig, right? Not only when stuff happens. Like all the time, we need to be... to rise.
We're not footnote. We're not supporters of anti-Semites. We're just pointing.
No, it's not about that.
To Fred's point, we need to look at we are trying to find the truth here.
I will say, if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind just for a few minutes into the anti-Semitism stuff and get it out of the way, because I want to talk a little bit about what's happened since October 7th and kind of leading into what you're talking about, because it's becoming really, really hard, I think, to make any kind of impact anymore, because it's like, look, all you're hearing is you're committing genocide. You can't even like the voices that at least for me, I don't know how it is for you guys, that I'm hearing constantly make it very difficult to even try to do anything together, even as Jews, because all we're trying to do is defend ourselves all the time. And it's becoming, I'll tell you my story. Okay, last we talked, look, I've always been aware of anti-Semitism. It's always obviously existed. I have been more astute to it because of my background, the things I've done. But October 7th has changed things in many respects, and it's only getting worse. Obviously, it's normalized anti-Semitism and, all blah, blah, blah. But for me, I'm not going to read all this stuff, but, you're going to die in the gas chamber, sleep lightly, Jew boy, all that stuff, whatever. At the beginning.
These are messages that you get?
Oh, my God. You have no idea. Thousands, man. I mean, we'll gas your tribe again and again. I mean, David Duke attacked me.
Where and why? Because
Twitter, I
social media?
I had a death threat with 3 red dots on my friend as a brigadier general, the IDF, another one of us and myself. I had to call, law enforcement. I've had, but I don't care about that. I don't want to talk about that because we all know about that crap. And it's not worth my time talking about that. In fact, what I want to talk about are people that aren't generally, you wouldn't expect to be anti-Semites. And deep down, they're probably not, but they become that way and they don't even realize it. That's where my bigger concern is. So there's a couple things. Number one, it's gotten really hairy since October 7th for me. It has been very stressful. At the beginning, for months and months, I've been fighting this and fighting it. I am tired of fighting it because I can't win. I believe that. I'm fighting it online and all that. It's a waste of my time. I've, in fact, for my own well-being, I've tried to stop engaging so much anymore because it's just not worth it and it doesn't do anything positive. And that's unfortunate.
What are you talking about? Like a tit for tat online?
On
Like,
Twitter, on social media, engaging, writing my stuff, having like poignant arguments. It's just not worth it anymore. You're not going to win this battle online. And I just decided to back off a bit. But what I am talking about is that look, I had a situation, without getting into so much details, with, generally normal people thinking it's okay to say it's okay that people are angry at the Jews, or, we're like that somebody could say something about us as Jewish people and that's okay, but it would never be okay if you said it about any other ethnic group. Like, it seems like reasonable. These people find it reasonable. It's okay to attack us, claiming we're committing, like you're committing genocide, or, you deserve this, or screaming free Palestine at you, or just attacking people verbally in any respect. And then, claiming also, and this is the bigger issue I think I have, because we're not going to win those arguments with those kind of people either. We can't. We talked about it earlier. The narrative is set. What my issue is, I think, and look, I think I'm very aware of the rest of the world. We're not the only people who have been persecuted, obviously, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of people, but my issue is with people that I love and care about, who are friends sometimes, who don't, maybe not all of them, but some of them don't necessarily understand. And they're like, well, talking about this all the time is irritating. And, we love you, but it's like, discounting our experience. Like, oh, how hard can it be for you now? How are you being attacked? Or just diminishing the fact that this is a real problem. And that's my bigger concern. People that truly don't hate us, like us individually, but they don't understand how serious of an issue this is. And so the bottom line of what I'm trying to say, because I don't want this to be a whole conversation about anti-Semitism, but it's the normalization that's scaring me. The rest of it, David Duke and all that, I don't care.
And I don't, that's the thing is, sometimes we as men find ourselves in a situation where we have to go out and do what needs to be done, even though no one's going to recognize us for it. And even though nobody understands, but we still have to do it. And if there's so many movies about that premise where something bad is coming and you go out to do it, and not until the war is, nobody ever may recognize you for it. But usually at the end of the movie, someone realized why you had to do what you do. And they're all so grateful at that point. But the whole time they just think you're a nut, or nobody, or you're totally misunderstood. And it's helpful to have a few friends who get what's going on. And I don't think, Fred, like Israel's a great example with these Mossad guys. They can't come home and, tell everybody what happened yesterday, or Navy SEAL kind of guys, right? You're not sitting around in the bar talking about the crazy shit I did last night. They go in, they do their job. They know that they have to do this. They know that people's lives depend on them, and that's it. They can't talk to anyone else about it. It's enough in that small group that they do those special secret missions. And in a sense, we have a small group who are doing special secret missions because, like you said, go talk to most Jews. They're enough already with this, right? Enough talking about this already. But it's not even close to enough. But just leave me alone. I want to just go to the club. I just want to go out to dinner. I want to do,
I don't want to be attacked everywhere I go. Somebody finds you're Jewish, they think I'm screaming. I'm sorry, because it's getting me so upset. There's two things. One, I'm tired. I'm really this is making me angry. I am telling you, I have been attacked. I don't say physically, attacked verbally. And then people saying it's complicated. I'm like, what the hell? I've been out at night and somebody said, well, it's complicated. I'm like, well, you said that about any other ethnic group, it wouldn't be complicated. It's tired of being attacked. People saying things like they find it acceptable. That makes me angry and uncomfortable. And this is happening on a regular basis. I don't know if it's happening to you all, but it's happening to me. That's the first thing. I've avoided going out a lot more lately because I don't know, for whatever reason, people know, they whisper, maybe, I don't know why they know I'm Jewish, but apparently people do. And these aren't people I know. I'm saying going out at night. And then also the thing that's bothering me the most, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off in a tangent, but I want to finish what I was saying, Seth, because I think it leads into what you're saying, is that what's bothering me more than anything of all of this is that there are people who are friends and don't understand it and can think it's self-consumed, or that it can't be that bad, or how bad is it really? And I can't. And so then I try to push it in their face more. because it makes me upset and prove it. And I just give it up. But it just, that's
I
what's
think it
bothering.
requires us to be even more, cunning is not the word, but more creative. More like, how do we tell the story in a way that
People don't believe it, Seth. They look at us as successful. They say,
no, I'm not talking about like
Oh.
GoPro footage of October 7th, that story. I'm talking about the whole picture of where humanity is going. I think what we have on our site is half of America is depressed and half of the world is on their way to being obese, which basically means that I saw China has like hundreds of millions of obese people are like on their way.
Which is
to hundreds
crazy. Right, China of all places, right?
That's the hope, that they won't be able to invade the rest of the world because too obese.
So what it means is, like, as soon as a country develops, like, they go into overconsumption and depression, because, and also with the speed with AI, like, people are going to realize, like, there's no way out. You know, this has to be solved, and so then the Jews have something to talk about at that point.
Right. So this brings us, you know, I think this brings.
Fred's thinking. Wait a second.
No, you saw that. No, I'm going to let Leo talk, but I heard everything you said, but there's one thing. It's just a quick question for you guys because I can't figure this out. Why is the GoPro footage from October 7th not like the IDF doesn't want to give it out? Like, I was talking to the International Press Office. They're not giving it. I don't understand. That stuff should
movies.
be every.
There's
No, but the
movies.
movie the IDF made, there's hardly any. The movie the IDF made, which I saw several times. I had a copy of it. I can't seem to find it, but might have been on my old phone. But that footage, if people saw that, nobody sees it. You're not seeing that anywhere. They have held that footage tight. I've never understood. I didn't want to watch it. I'll be disturbed the rest of my life. But I watched 45 minutes of the worst thing I've ever seen, the most documented. And I don't understand. And I'm sorry, I know there was a side note, but you're bringing up how we can make people understand. That would be one way for people just to see it.
No,
bro, there's such a when you see, you know, girls like scraping with their fingernails, hostage posters of children off, tearing down hostage posters. It's a deep psychological issue that people have, that if Israel is the one who's the problem, then people don't need to look at themselves. If this is really happening to Israel and people have to really come to terms with reality, then everything has to change. But as long as we can point to Israel as being the problem of everything, then nobody else has to change.
But that's the narrative we're talking about, chipping in somebody's narrative. They refuse to do it. And the question is this, Seth, also, most of these people don't care about Israel. It's irrelevant. If they cared about Israel, they talk about
Jews,
the Syrians.
Jews. Replace the word Israel with Jews.
No, you're right there. What I'm saying, most of these people scraping the posters of these kids, they don't even understand what they're doing. They just want to battle the freaking fight.
No, but it's emotional.
Right.
Emotionally, they feel some repulsion to the Zionist entity.
I mean, they turn Zionist negative. If I hear one more time, that's the other thing. I've heard people, I don't hate Jews, but they've managed to take a word that's generally benign and turn it into some crazy negative, and it's working.
We should do what the rappers did with the N-word.
But it's right, but it's crazy. I mean, it's literally, people think that's okay is what I'm saying. People who weren't generally anti-Semites are becoming anti-Semites without even realizing it. Those are the people I'm concerned about, the normalization of it. The people that you would never traditionally put in a box as anti-Semites are becoming that. And they don't even see it. And Seth, that's exactly what you're talking about.
Speak, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I'm listening to you guys getting all riled up, and it's great.
I'm riled up right now.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I wish more people would be riled up because it would mean that they're ready to maybe consider a broader explanation. You know, when you start to rule out the things that don't make sense, you end up with what has to be the right thing, right? Even so, it doesn't matter if you believe in facts, don't believe in facts. You know, this works, this doesn't work. This works, this doesn't work. You eventually get to that point. Now, I'm not expecting the rest of the world to do this type of scrutiny. I'm expecting us, the people who are suffering through this, to do this scrutiny. Because if you're seeing that things are getting worse, if you're seeing that even all the rational proof that we're the victim here is not working, some other force is at work here. The question is what? So we go, we in the on the Jew function, we're trying to look at anti-Semitism and explain it according to the laws of nature. And we go for that. We go to we looked at historic patterns. We looked at network science, which was more like a sort of a proof point in a way, but it didn't explain the root of it. And then the only thing we had left was our own Jewish sages. So if you're willing to acknowledge that maybe we don't have all the answers, and maybe there were some really smart people, really wise people who understood something of how this craziness works, and they wrote about it, then maybe we should look and listen to what they're saying, and not listen to it in the sense of like, oh, this is a nice idea. No, but like, look at the direction they're pointing. Because if I'm reading, I'm going to read another little thing here. If I'm reading something from Baal HaSulam, Yehuda Ashlag, from the introduction to the Book of Zohar, he writes, in such a generation, all the destructors among the nations of the world raise their heads and wish primarily to destroy and kill the children of Israel. As it is written, no calamity comes to the world but for Israel. This means, as it is written in the above Tikkunim, that they cause poverty, ruin, robbery, killing, and destructions in the whole world. Now, this is a harsh quote, but another quote says that actually that there's the complete sentence of that: no calamity comes to the world if not for Israel, and no good comes to the world but for Israel. The guidance of all the worlds is given to Israel. So our sages wrote those things not as nice euphemisms, not as nice, hey, let's create our own mythology and be. No, I really think that they know something. They knew something. They're trying to tell us, look, you're at the heart of this. Like it or not, you live in a system. The system has to operate around certain, organizing principles. One of them is that one group, is sort of a catalyst, right? Like in everything in the world, every chemical reaction, biological reaction, you have a thing that starts the process, right? You have a fire starter. That's who we are. If we understand that we have that capacity, then I would argue that we shouldn't even expect the others.
It doesn't even matter that nobody believes us, or that I don't need to argue with all these people. We just need to do the right thing. It doesn't matter what anyone says.
That's
and
Leo, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah,
I got some of you giving me thoughts here, man. I'm going to go in a totally different direction. Finish up. I got excited right now.
And so from another article, he writes, Baal Sulam, the article called Exile and Redemption, he writes, as long as we do not raise our goal above the corporeal life, we will have no corporeal resurrection. For the spiritual and corporeal in us cannot dwell together. We are the children of the idea. And even if we are immersed in 49 gates of materialism, we will still not give up the idea. The idea. Hence, it is the holy purpose of for his sake that we need. For his sake, meaning for the sake of this quality of love and bestowal. This is whenever they speak about the creator, it's that law of love, bestowal that we're trying to resemble. That's really what the whole thing is about. How can we bring humans to feel that quality of love? How? By resembling it. How can you resemble? You can't change your nature. We can't change, right, who we are, egoists, desire to receive pleasure, but the intention, that can change. And that's what we're invited to try and consider. And everything else will just fall apart. Can you imagine that?
You just hit me hard, man. Is that okay if I chime in here on a couple of things?
Fine, that's it.
Boys, it's okay. All right, two things. Number one, what you said was beautiful, and I'll tell you why. And I think I've kind of alluded to this before. I truly am no perfect person. None of us are. But I believe, I said this last time, what's mine is yours. I'm not going to get into all my stuff again, but I spend my life doing the best I can, trying to not allow the world to poison me, right? I continue to behave in the way to bring love to people, to always ask people, what can I do for you? To get to know people on a human level, whether they're homeless, whether they're going through whatever it is they're going through. And I spend my life trying to bring that love. And I can tell you one thing, sometimes people think I'm nuts, and I am nuts and whatever. And when they realize that there's no agenda to it, I can tell you exactly the point you're making is that people change. And I will never let people that have done things to me that poison me. I will always continue to behave that way. And you are absolutely right. Now, I can tell you from a micro level that works. I know that there's people out there who may not have been so empathetic to others, this and that. And as they get to know me, they're like, oh my God. And they start doing that. And maybe they're faking it first, but then they're truly doing it and it changes them. So that's number one. And I think You are 100% right about that. And I've lived my life like that. And so I will continue doing that. And you have a point. We're always talking about the negative and the anti-Semitism. You know what? And this is not just as Jews, but as humans. And I see that all the time. But I think that maybe comes from, I don't know, it's how I was taught. It's, nature versus nurture, but it's part of who we are in our DNA, I believe, as Jews. And also the second thing, and you're going to be surprised I'm bringing this up because this is so not my usual thing, but if God gave us free will, but really, God really knows what's happening anyway, what the heck's the difference if we're fighting this or not? To Seth's point, why does it matter? Why are we wasting our time? Because God already knows what's going to happen anyway. Is that some reality to that?
Yes.
I mean, Seth said, what are we doing? Wasting our time. The truth is, he may have a point, and both of you have a point.
But the effort, we have to do the effort, but the effort is in the win does not come from the online debate with the guy. The win comes from deciding, putting the effort in the right place.
The win is coming from exactly what I think Leo and Seth were both alluding to, in bringing the love. Why are we so worried about fighting anti-Semitism instead? I mean, just being the ones to bring the love.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because it's more difficult. At the end of the day,
for me, the love's easier to do.
Well,
for me, it is 1,000 times. I mean,
you definitely are a rare specimen, which is the point to mention again that you're single. But my point is that
I'm complicated.
it's easy to a degree, but at some point it requires effort. There's just a level of participation that is required. This is what people who are not Jews don't get and don't like to do in the first place. As said in the very beginning, like if there's an argument, I just take off. I just move to another state. Why do I have to deal with this person? I'm taking off.
Yeah, but that's kind of that's kind of a blank statement. I mean,
no. It's a statement about human nature. I want maximum pleasure, minimum pain.
Plenty of Jews too. Okay, right.
So Jews too, but Jews have no choice but to rise above.
Correct.
That's the thing that we were taught from Mount Sinai, the mountain of hate, to cover it with love. That's what it is. That's the meaning of Sinai, from the word Sinai, hate. And King Solomon says, what's the quote? Hate steers all, hate steers.
My moment to shine, and I don't remember.
Yeah, hate steers all strife.
But love covers all crimes.
Love covers all transgression, all crimes. All of our work is only in doing that. Now, when you have a group that helps you rise, make that choice each and every time, it becomes easy. But everybody has to be in on it. That's why we had to start with us, the little, a small group in humanity. We have to say, you know what? We're going to do just that. And why? Because, and before you say,
no, it's okay. I'm just making my hand motions, my Jewish hand motions, man. I'm thinking.
I'll read another quote. I'll read another quote from Rav Kook. He says, because the revealed unity of the moral, spiritual, and intellectual world, along with the material, technical, and social world, is expressed in the world through Israel. The skill of the land of Israel is to establish in the world the revelation of this unity, which gives a new face to the entire human culture. It's like, it's in us. But this is a choice we have to make every morning when you wake up. It's not it's not some external, commandment to do this and not eat this and not eat that. No, those are external expressions of an inner truth that we are refusing to acknowledge. Why? Because it takes some more effort. It can't be automatic like the mitzvahs. The mitzvahs are automatic. If I grew up religious, I'm doing the things. That's not what will get me, to love the other as myself. I have to get involved. I have to care. I have to, every day, my ego will rise and I have to somehow get help from my friends. And this is the challenge. This is the national challenge of the Jewish people. Can we rise to it?
I will say, I'm sorry, but I have to say something because, in life, there's always moments that you never know when they're going to come when your brain just shifts for a minute, right? You're like, fuck. And Seth and Leo, you guys did that to me today, actually. And I want to bring up what happened. You just said something to me. For me, it's natural. It's easy for me, right? I spend my life helping people and I love it. The other day I was out with a friend and she's like, you're so friendly. And I was irritated by it. And I thought to myself, I mean, it was fine that she was irritated. It wasn't about her, but I was like, you know what? That's easy for me. You just said it. For me to love. So why am I trying so hard to deal with this negative Constantly. I need to be doing what, as a Jew, I should be doing, and as a human, but the way I was not just taught, the way that my heart, I don't have.
We
I don't
have
think
a believer.
Right. I don't think, no, but it's not, I've always been this way. It's just that I've never, I don't know. I never felt like I fit regular human nature. I'm serious. I don't, it's not difficult for me to be kind. It's not, it's innate to me. And the thing is, when I bring that light, my life's better. It makes other people's lives better. And I'm always doing it. But when I get trapped in this negative bullshit about spreading this fighting anti-Semitism, and you guys really, I'm not kidding you. It's not that I haven't known this, but I'm realizing everybody's always telling me, why are you, my mother, my family, it's not healthy for you. And they're not wrong. I just didn't realize it until just now. Why am I trying to fight something when I'm just bringing love? As a Jewish person, it's not to fight anti-Semitism. It's to bring love and bring light.
Menachem, charge him my regular rate, give him a discount on this.
Right, exactly. Call them oil, 10%. So, but really, I'm telling you, you guys made a big shift for me today to realize it's not worth it. The poison, which I say I always avoid, sometimes I'm not avoiding it. And this love, which is so natural for me, and even when other people think it's weird, they usually come back to it, right? They usually are like, wow, it's not. And that's what, as a Jewish person, I think, I need to get rid of fighting these anti-Semites and all of that. It's a no-win situation, and just continue to bring love. And if I get rid of all of that crap and just let it go to the side, I can just bring more love.
You can't let it go. I don't think you can totally let it go because, like we said, we have to live in these two worlds, but we can still put the effort into deciding where we're aiming. Because again, those people who are just, Shabbaton 24/7. It's also not realistic. There's something about that's not realistic. Yeah.
No, but I do it. I know, look, guys, I think you've gotten to know me a little bit. I am far from perfect. I am definitely not politically correct. I just do it. I can be an asshole and still do it,
Fred, Rabbi Mendel from Kotsk said, Menachem Mendel from Kotsk, he said, the creator doesn't need angels. He needs humans. So it's good. If he wanted it perfect, he could have, he could have had it. He wants the human with all the stuff, with all the drama, with all the this and the ups and downs. That's what makes it so rich and beautiful. And we want to keep it. We don't want to kill it. But what we want to do, and I think we'll close on this because Seth has to, he's got to make.
Seth's married now.
I'm a professional.
He's got to make money. Come on.
By day, I don't even want to start what I was about to say in my head, right? Your thoughts, you're not responsible for your thoughts, they say. Anyway, go ahead.
So we'll close on this. I'll let you read a quote, which will really kind of seal the deal, because before you read it, I'll just, kind of give you the right direction. If we continue to take the words of our sages, really as law, not as some, again, nice ideas, philosophical thought, but really they're describing reality to us. They're trying to break through that narrative that we are stuck in. And they're saying, look, the whole world is in you. These antisemites, the nations of the world, the Nazis, the Hamas, they're all in you. They're fighting for your attention. Where do you put your attention? What do you make more important and less important? What do you keep up? What do you put down, right? You have to make this arrangement. This is a human work to do. Animals don't do it. They naturally follow the algorithm. You have to make this choice every moment. So I want you to read this closing quote, and you can if you want to say something after, you're invited, but really with that intention, that this is all happening inside of you. And what do I do with it? So give that a read for us.
What do you mean give it a read? Where is it?
I just posted it. It's in the chat now. So slowly.
I don't know. I'm going to read this. It's going to come back to haunt me. I'm not sure. Is it okay?
Yeah. It's not going to haunt you.
It's going to work out better. Your life's going to get better.
All right. I'm Fred Menachem, and this is the Jew Function. When a person from Israel enhances and dignifies his internality, which is the Israel in him, over the externality, which are the nations of the world in him, that is, he dedicates the majority of his efforts to enhance and extol his internality to benefit his soul, and gives little efforts, the mere necessity, to sustain the nations of the world in him, meaning the bodily needs. By so doing, he makes the children of Israel soar upward in the internality and externality of the world as well, and the nations of the world, which are the externality, to recognize and acknowledge the value of the children of Israel. Al Hashulam. Am I saying it right? And that's from the book of Zohar.
Introduction to the book of Zohar.
So
Beautiful.
put that next to your Twitter account or your X account, and every time you want to,
Yeah. Just remember where to focus.
I'm telling you guys, man, this brought me love. This brought me back to love. I'm not kidding you guys. I'm telling you, I had a shift today. And you guys, listen, when somebody, and that's a mitzvah. You guys did a mitzvah today. You didn't even realize it. Because when those moments happen, that's big. That's a light. That's a spark to remind me who I am. I always knew, and to just remember as a Jewish person, it's not. Yes, we have to fight anti-Semitism sometimes, but it's to bring light. And I'll leave it on that. My job in this world, and I've always known that, despite people telling me you should focus on yourself or why you're always helping people. At the end of the day, I've always known since I was a child, when they used to pin Lev Tov on my freaking shirt in Cedarhurst in nursery school, that my job is to bring light to the world. Yes, as a human, but also as a Jew, most importantly. And I will continue doing that. And because of you guys, I'm going to make an extra effort to not think of anything negative today. So thank you guys. Really, send me a bill, Seth.
I will.
With interest.
Get the friends and family discount.
It's always fun to be on the. It's always fun to be on the show. I'm glad that we finally did it. I know we always cancel and change things. It's just my mission, Gus. But
we're expecting big things, Fred Menachem. Go fix the Jews and the world, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, this is the Jew function. You guys, you've seen it. So would love to continue to do this with you, with the rest of the world. Why not? Why just focus on Fred when we can do it with everyone?
And we have to bring Mara Menachem next, though.
Start with Fred and go
I'm throwing Mara's name out so she hears it, right?
First we do the Menachem family, then we do the world. All right. So follow us we're on every platform. Yeah, subscribe, leave a comment, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you so much.
And wait, one more thing. Always remember, dress British, but think Yiddish.